Your Wedding series. We are planning your wedding starting at age 14, but we have now fast forward to the point of where you are dating. So everyone is going to be dating at different ages. People are going to be dating for marriage at different ages. So this is just some advice to help you to plan that a little bit better going into before he proposes, okay? Now, the reason why we are talking about this wedding series in this way is because you're going to be planning your wedding starting from the beginning, not just when you get engaged, right? So it's planning your wedding from the beginning, starting with, like I said, that age 14-year-old you, where we fast forward into the age in which you get engaged. And so what is a wedding series? What is all this about? We are planning your wedding and telling your love story through a series of wedding events. So you're going to have all sorts of events, starting with the proposal, engagement photo shoot, engagement party, bridesmaids proposal, groomsmen's proposal if you have one, the wedding dress shopping gown day. And you guys know I like gowns better than dresses, so I always throw that in there. Gown day, shopping day. And then we have the bachelorette, bachelor, or hen do party, depending on what part of the world you live in. And then we also have the wedding shower, bridal shower. And not everybody's going to have all of these events. We run right into the rehearsal dinner, the rehearsal for the wedding for those who have never walked on an aisle and they need some practice. And then we have the get ready with me the morning of the wedding for both bride and groom, and a lot of their bridal party is also in it as well. It's a to-do with just like the other events, guys. It's a behind the scenes of getting ready with me on the morning of. Run into our wedding ceremony and our wedding reception. Now, not everybody has all of these events, so it depends on who you are and how you want to curate your wedding series. Like I said, not everybody wants to do all of them, right? So it's important that you figure out what's important to you. Okay, so like I said, we're going to jump right in. Most of you guys have been with me for a while. Hi, I'm your content creator, but why am I here? I am here because I am the one that's going to be capturing and providing affordable videography, not the expensive stuff, affordable videography for all of your wedding events that you have. And so when you are thinking about holding that cell phone in your hand, or your guests are holding that cell phone and you can't see their lovely faces, that's when I come in. You don't want people holding cell phones at all of your events. You want them to be immersed in the experiences, okay? And happy to be there with you. So you are going to see their smiling faces because they won't be holding cell phones. I'll be holding the cell phone as your personal paparazzi, capturing all the moments. You'll get everything in 1 to 2 days, which is awesome because you can put it all on social media right away. You don't have to wait for, like I said, the expensive videography and this expensive photography to come through. So lights, camera, action. Let's start the show. Here's a little advice from me to help your story unfold. I'm going to go ahead and grab my notes for today's episode, talking about your wedding series, and this is episode 10. Okay, we are getting there, you guys. We're getting there. It's a journey. It is not a sprint. It's definitely a marathon, and it does take time to, plan your wedding, but also for those of you who are looking to date the right way in today's world, this advice is certainly going to benefit you the most, okay? So those of you that are not looking for that, you may as well just turn this video off, or all these videos off, because you're not going to like the things that I'm talking about. It's curated to a people group who are really, really interested in doing marriage better than what we've been seeing as of late in our world, okay? So here is episode 10, and this is our topic today. I can't afford a house. Now what? Preparing for marriage before he proposes. So, hopefully, if you watched episodes 1 through 9, you put this into practice. Those things that we talked about. And you didn't find yourself asking this question once you are in the dating for marriage phase. We can't afford a house. Now what? A lot of us end up here. It's super sad. to think that in today's world that, like, you know, we follow this model that sold us a lie, you know. Go to college, get yourself an apartment, rent that up, you know, now you're renting, you can't afford to buy, obviously. You haven't saved any money to be able to buy the house at that point. So you get some roommates. I did not do the roommate thing, but I know a lot of people did. I lived by myself until I got married. And so, but most people get roommates and they try to afford this high price rent. It may have been affordable when you first started. You're like, oh, I can do this. I can put, you know, this few hundred away because you have roommates and stuff. And like, it's not, you know, that bad. But then you realize you aren't saving. You didn't save anything. So like I said, hopefully you did take my advice from episodes 1 through 9 that talked about 14-year-old you and how you can save for the house by the time you get to this phase, which is dating for marriage. Now, we fast forwarded from 14-year-old you. We've gone through all your high school years. We've gone through your college years and how you were supposed to be saving money during that time. And to save even more money, we talked about living at home with parents instead of moving out into an apartment rental or renting a house for some people. We talked about how if you go back home, you get to live with parents and you can save money. Okay, so we talked about that in depthly, and so we don't want to belabor that. So anyone that's tuning in for this episode, make sure that you go back and watch episodes 1 through 9 so that you can get caught up with us here in 10, because we fast forward through the years now. And if you didn't take that advice and you find yourself asking that question at this point of dating for marriage, you may need to see a financial officer in order to get things on track before he proposes. Okay. This episode is catered to before he proposes. Dating for marriage. So you're dating for marriage, but you haven't yet proposed. Okay. And so I'm not telling you that you're not ready to propose. That's between you and the person that you're dating. I just want you to understand that if your goals are to have a home, and you may not even know what your goals are while you're dating for marriage, but if you do know that it is, then right now, if you are asking yourself, or if you're saying now what, because you can't afford a house, then you may need to realize that you have to get a financial advisor and that you're not ready to propose to her just yet. Okay, so your financial officer will have all kinds of options for you on how you can start saving now. Start saving for that down payment to buy a house right now. Now, if you are in a financial strain and you, like I said, you didn't find yourself living with parents, you decided, nope, I can't do that. That's not going to work out for me. I'm going to continue to be on the struggle bus, living with roommates and spending money on rent. And so I don't have any money for a house. That's why I said you have to do the financial officer route before you propose to her. And so I hate to be a broken record repeating the before part, but people find themselves in this situation after. And like I said, they're not alone. We are not alone. Like, there's so many of us that have found ourselves like, ah! And so it's looking back on these things now and looking at what went wrong. What went horribly wrong when it came to wanting to buy a house. We get to the point where it's like, okay, now we're married and now we want to buy a house. And it's like, well, man, why didn't we think about that beforehand? And we could have been saving individually. And then when we got together, you know what I mean? And so also there was some more tips in there for the men. So men, please, 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 please go back and watch that. And so on how you could have been and should have been saving for your house. But for those of you that did watch those, and those of you that even if you didn't, but you already had that bit of advice growing up, and so you are ready. You are ready. You aren't asking yourself that question, and so you are ready. You're ready for this. And so let's talk about what that looks like while you're dating for marriage, okay? Let's talk about that. So you've been saving and you're ready for this point, this part of your life where just before you propose, you've been looking at your finances, you see that they're in order, you're ready for that down payment, and it's time to have a little talk with your honey, okay? It's time for you to sit down and have a little talk about, okay, do we want to buy a house after the honeymoon? Or would we be better off buying a condo, buying something a little smaller than a house, buying a townhouse? You know, you don't have to buy a house. You could also rent for the first year if you guys are going to be like moving to a new city and you're trying to get a feel for it. But you already have established you have the money for it because you saved, right? You've been saving. So you're not worried about if you have to rent for like a year while you guys move to a new place. Now, speaking of a new place, you guys also need to talk about, do we want to live here where we met? Maybe one of you has decided, I don't want to live here anymore. So this is what you talk about before the proposal, the beforehand. Okay. And so you guys are having these conversations in your group date settings. Remember, you're on group date settings and for accountability and all that good stuff. And so you're not having these, you're not alone in this dating for marriage thing. Remember that. Okay. So you're at one of those group setting dates and you're talking about it. Where do we want to live? Where do we see ourselves living once we come back from that honeymoon? So begin those conversations. And there's so many places, you guys, that you could live. So, thinking about family in mind and things like that, like your immediate family, if you want to be close to them so they can help with the children when kids come along. As grandparents get older, you can help your mother and father with them if you stay around, right? If you stay in the same city. Now, I know that that's not always the easiest things to talk about, especially you're dating for marriage right now. Like you're not really, you just want to go on cute dates and have fun and laugh and giggle all the time. I know, I'm one of those girls too. but we have to get serious, okay? We have to get real and we have to get serious and we have to understand that this is going to build a foundation for our future marriage. Okay. So we can't just be passive and not talk about this stuff, not talk about money and finances and things like that. So, like I said, hopefully you're in the boat of we did prepare. And so now it's just a matter of, the rest, all of the rest coming along. So you guys are just talking. You guys are just having discussions about this and getting a feel for what the other is thinking about. Do you both just want to stay where you are? Perfect. Then we check that off, right? But if one is thinking about, you know what, like my family doesn't live here. I'm ready to go. I've been thinking about it for a long time. How do you feel about moving to so and so? And so that's when you guys have those talks. Maybe you've always romanticized about living, in Colombia or something. And you're like, Venezuela, it could be anywhere. Maybe you just romanticize about living in Europe for like 2 years. And so that's something you guys need to talk about. You know what I mean? Maybe you wanted to get like that paid internship or something right out of college. And so even though you guys have been thinking about marriage, he hasn't proposed yet, but maybe you guys could talk about it. Maybe you guys go live there for like a couple of years, another country. So it's just, you're just talking, you're just getting a feel for how the other person is doing and feeling in the relationship about the moving forward portion, because this is dating for marriage. Okay, so the next thing you want to talk about is once you do figure out where you want to live, do you want to live in the city, like downtown? Do you want to live a little bit away from downtown where you're still pretty close, for your commute if you have to commute into work, or for special events, and fun stuff in the city. It's usually in the heart of the city, like downtown areas or uptown or midtown. And so have you thought about that, or would you like to live in the suburbs completely away from the city? Okay, so talk about those things, because there's pros and cons to living in both. There's going to be a lot more traffic when you live downtown, but you're going to have a lot more walkability, like things to walk to when you live downtown, especially if you're in a very scenic or historic city. Either one, you're going to have a lot to like see and, be like a little tourist in your own city, which is really, really fun. And so you'll have more options for food and restaurants whenever you guys just want to have like a nice little date out. But then when you have the suburbs, it's quieter, it's usually cleaner, just less chaotic. And so you've got bigger grocery stores. A lot of time downtown, you don't have any grocery stores. So it's just something for you to be thinking about. If one of you already owns a home, we haven't talked about that because that's not really the plan, how I structured this. But let's talk about if somebody already did own a home. Have you guys thought about the other one moving into there and raising, your family from there? So that's something else to kind of throw in the mix of, we're ready to buy a house, or hopefully, like I say, you're not still in that category. You were never in that category, or didn't find yourself in that category, especially if you've been getting some good advice on, how to plan for the future early. Literally, as I started this whole web series based on this wedding series, based on planning at age 14. And I know there are going to be lots of people out there probably laughing at me about this, but if you go back and watch them, you'll understand the why I did that, why at that age is so important to start planning for your future and what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to talk about something I don't think most people talk about when it comes to planning for a house and their future. And that is, what if you get an inheritance? So before you are engaged, before he proposes, what if someone in your family came along and said, you have an inheritance coming. You will be inheriting, your grand aunt's home, or your grandmother or grandfather's home, something like that. A lot of grandparents are doing reverse mortgage because they don't think anybody's going to want their home after they pass away, because like it's older, it was built in a different time. And so they just feel like, oh, this generation, they're so crazy. They're not going to want, my house. But like, they don't think about the fact that like you could restructure that house. You could do complete new construction on that home and make it what you want it to be. You can re-insulate it, do new floors, put on a new roof. Like there's so many things that you could do. Sometimes like cleaning the windows outside and cleaning the bricks and the outdoor, all the difference. The sidewalks, all the gasoline stains on the sidewalks and all that, getting all that stuff cleaned up. Fresh coat of paint outside. Sometimes that's all you need. But the grandparents, they don't realize that like there could be someone in the family that is wanting to continue to have a home that stays in the family rather than being sold back into the city, government, or state. Okay, so think about these things. Start talking to family, because you never know if somebody in the family is like, you know what? Yes, there is a home waiting for you, And guys, we don't realize this when we are young adults. And this is something that me and my friends were talking about last night. And that is that older generation needs us, and we need them. So get that conversation started. You may need to move in with them for a little while. You never know how long that could be. It could be upwards of 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But you guys now can be a very close family unit that when the babies start coming, they can help you to raise them, you know. You can help to take care of them because as our grandparents get older, they need a lot of care and they don't want to be alone. It's very hard to get older and to feel so alone in those homes, okay? Their homes just feel so much bigger than they did when, you moved into them in your 20s and you were getting married and all the babies started coming along and filling in all the rooms. And when they went away to college, they still came back. And they were still living there with you.
Lights, camera, action, baby, strike a pose. Phones and cameras out, just watch it all unfold. We're the stars of the show, ain't no need for filters. Living life through the lens, capturing our breath. Put away your phones and cameras, let the good times roll. Our content creators got it all under control. From weddings to events, parties, travel and brands, we're living the paparazzi life. It's all in our hands.
Lights, camera, action, we're ready to go. We're professionals, don't you already know? From TikTok to Instagram, we're taking the lead.